Have you ever wondered if you can crack a booster box of Magic the Gathering and build a commander deck out of it? Well, I certainly have. And today, in this video, we're going to give that exact thing a try. I have a box of play boosters of Commander Masters. We're going to do my favorite thing on the channel here, which is to open some packs. Very excited. It's been a little while since we've cracked Commander Masters on the challenge, but we're going to add an extra little spin. We are going to see if inside of this Commander Masters draft booster, not play booster, this is the good old days. We're going to see if inside this draft booster box we can find and put together a functioning commander deck out of it. Now, I've seen this challenge done a handful of times. I thought this would be a really fun and unique experience. I actually want to try this with a few other sets, so we'll go what I consider maybe easy mode here a little bit with Commander Masters, obviously aligned to the Commander format. Plenty of legends and plenty of opportunities to pick from, but we're going to jump in. I have also seen a few deck building additions, but I don't think we're going to have to worry too much about this in this here specific set. So my goal is not to make anything super awesome. It's just really to see, can we crack some packs and what can we put together? Deck building restrictions with Commander is actually one of the unique and kind of interesting ways that you can spice up some Commander decks. I have a handful, just like most of you out there. If you play Commander at all, you probably start to grow your collection. I have been getting more and more into it and having obviously a ton of fun with the format, and thought this would be a unique way to maybe put together something new. So without further ado, let's get in, let's crack some packs, and let's see what we have to work with. All right, in order to do this, first things first, we got to crack the box. Commander Masters Draft Boosters, again, one of my, honestly, great set, really good hits, and there could be some good stuff in here. I need probably a few things for a few Commander decks, which is also why I figured this would be fun to do. So let's crack into this here today. This is the good old day of draft boosters, so we'll see if we get anything extra spicy. And yeah, now obviously, as part of this, we'll call it challenge, but as part of this deck building restriction, we're hoping to find some good legends, multicolored specifically, that we can have some success with. Let's get pretty well full zoomed in here, get all the glory. And so yeah, that's what we're hoping for. We're hoping that we can see some good stuff. What I will do is I will spare you the time of all of the sorting and different things that we'll go through. So we'll just take a look at the hits and we'll do a bunch of sorting, and then we will go from there. Thorn of the Black Rose. Look at that, right off the rip, a Jet Medallion. Pretty good if we end up going into black, something that we can use. And Endrick, a legendary creature. Mono black, maybe? Hello? We'll keep some legendary creatures down here. See if we get anything else pretty cool inside of this. Nice little full art reach. Very cool. So we should have a good amount. Again, this is kind of, I'll say maybe easy mode for this challenge, just because, you know, this set is pretty well designed for this format. And whoa, look at that. Foil Grand Abolisher. That's really cool. That's a nice little hit. And one of my favorites, the old Tooth and Nail. And a Sower of Discord. So maybe mono black and a Queen Marchesa. Look at that. Okay. Good hits to get going here already. Pretty sweet. Lens. We are going to obviously lean, potentially, if we need to. Nice Commander Sphere. We'll lean a little bit into some artifacts if we need to go that route. But Queen Marchesa is pretty cool. The other hope that I have is obviously building a commander deck for a commander that I don't have, and I don't think that'll be a problem. I don't. Actually, do I even have any commanders from Commander Masters? I probably do. Look at that foil Path of Ancestry, though, too. I spit on it a little bit. Sorry about that. Whoa. Wow. Nice hit. That's a nice hit. That is a nice hit. Little dinosaur action, and wow, the Unhallowed. We might be in business here. or mono black, maybe. That would be pretty cool. Nice little Lightning Greaves. Expanse, Resculpt, Mystic. Very cool. Wow, some good first packs. The finale is pretty sweet. That is pretty nice. Rise from the Tides. Cool, Torrential Gearhulk. That's neat. And a Mob Boss. Grand Dynamo. Okay, okay. Counterspell. Foundry Inspector. Value-wise, what are we hoping to pull out of this? Fierce Guardianship would be good. I could use, I think, one of those. Trying to think what else we need. I'm sure there's some other things. Baird. A Bloodspore Thrinax. The Balin, Wandering Knight. That's really cool. We got plenty of legendary creature options. I can't remember how many draft boxes of this I've opened. I might have done a set box. I think I've done one draft box previously. Staunch Throne Guard. There it is. Fierce Guardianship. Thank you. Thank you, hits. Ooh, legendary creature, Maelstrom Wanderer. Cascade, Cascade. In some good colors as well. That's pretty cool. Blue would not be bad. We would get some good options. So that is certainly a consideration for legendary creatures. Make Pulsabs for a reason. Supply Runners. Wake the Dead. Zilratha. Another legendary creature. We could do a little dinosaur theme, maybe. Soul Ring, beautiful. We're going to need one of those for sure. Absolutely for sure. Search, cool. I feel like I'm not paying too much attention to the uncommons, but that's probably another good spot to pay attention to. Again, we'll do the sorting and stuff off camera here and get it all organized for you. That's a cool landscape. Nice foily action. Sword of the Animist. Very neat. And a hammer. Wow, cool. Neat. That can slot in. And a chainer. Another legendary creature. Arcane Signet. Beautiful, beautiful. Could probably play that. I got a Witch's Cauldron. Cool, 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 cool. Pretty good. First third of the box. Can't be upset about that at all, I would say. Little foily Shelter. Treasure Nebber. Caradora. Ghost Chieftain. Another legendary creature. Good colors. Nightblade. Full art. Foil Foundry Inspector. If we want to go the artifact route, that's a good one. There's another medallion. That's cool. I love the medallions. Evacuation. Return all creatures to their owner's hands. Not bad in blue. Really not bad in blue. And an Azusa. 2 additional lands. That's pretty nice. Plenty of legendary creature options here for us. Plenty. Little Thriving Isle. Nice. Gonna need a command tower as well. Very cool. Good box so far too. I'm not upset. Not upset on the returns so far. The Ascension. And a Ynnett, Cryptic Sovereign. Another good legendary creature. Here's what's kind of cool about this. Nice Thought Vessel. We could use that. Good Path to Exile if we're in those colors. Also like to see that. The cool part about this is I'll probably pay attention to a handful more cards, or quite a few more, than I would have originally, right? Yannette probably doesn't get a whole lot of my attention if I'm just cracking this to see what pulls we get, have some fun, maybe find some value potentially. But this changes it up. Little Stonehoof Chieftain in foil. Cool. Ooh, nice. Wrath of God. Got some good removal spells, it looks like. And a Sai. Master Thopterist. Very cool. There's Gonti hanging out. We don't have to do, of course, and an altar. Very nice. Very, very nice. We, of course, don't have to use a rare legendary creature, but we most likely will. We'll see what our options are. Gives us probably the most flexibility. Furious Rise. Verdant Confluence. Jor-El. Really cool. I think that's a good hit, too. Maybe Bastion of Remembrance. Nice. See, even this. Draw a card. That's interesting. Not very good. Not a great rate. Generous Gift. But it's there. Another Commander Sphere. The non-full art version. I feel like it was kind of in that same slot last time. Piles here are getting a little messy. Sorry about that. Thraben Inspector. And Sublime Exhalation. Another destruction spell. Legendary creature cat warrior. Jazal Goldmane. Very nice. I really do want to test this out, have some fun with this, and I have another set I'm actually quite excited to give this a go and try. If this is one, fun, two, we could be successful. Again, I have no expectation that this deck is going to be great by any means. Tier 1, Tier 2 territory, if we're lucky, I would say. There's another Grand Abolisher. That's pretty cool. Wow. Okay, well, listen. I did say there was a chance we could go easy mode. This would be one of the options to do that. There's another mythic hit in here that could also make it pretty easy. This is one of them, though. That is sick. That is a great hit. Very cool. And I don't have a dragon deck. So we just finished opening up on the channel, at least. If you're just checking this out, we do openings every Wednesday. I just finished opening up some Tarkir Collector booster boxes over the last couple of weeks. We opened a bunch of them right around release date, but we spread them out. And so I've got some Tarkir cards that we could plus this up with. Oh, the old boom pile. Interesting. Oh, here's a cool one. Nekusar, the Mind Razor. Draw an additional card whenever it draws a card and deals a damage. Pretty cool. Not bad colors. Not bad colors. We saw a lot of pretty good black cards. That's the other thing we'll take a look at to see is nice command tower. Very cool. And in all that glitters. We'll take a look to see. That was the second third of the box. And that was pretty good. Some good hits inside of that. So see if the first two portions have kept up their end of the bargain. Let's see if we can finish out with some cool hits as well. Just like that. Let's go. Our mythics have been great. Really great. How about a doubling season? Maybe we got to find a reason to go into green now. Runescar Demon. Safara Sky's Blade, another legendary creature. Angel. Other creatures you control with flying have indestructible. Pretty cool. Yeah, that's been good. Nice little Eternal Witness. Tragic Slip. Yeah, this is cool. Ur-Dragon. Didn't expect to see a Ur-Dragon, but happy that it's here. That was cool. Doubling season, fantastic too. Filigree attendant, we got something cool here. Nice. Tooth and nail. You know, the OG art that we saw earlier is awesome, but this is really cool too. And an insurrection. Look at that. And a Drakiseth, Maw of Flames. Our dragon friends are getting better here. Atiova, Shimmermere, Judge, Return to Dust. Pretty cool. I don't feel like I've seen this very often. Full art version of that. Neat. Yeah, some good stuff. Okay, listen. This box, pretty great. Pretty great. Outside of the Fierce, though, we haven't seen any of the other free spells. So, here's to see if we stumble on any more of those. Feed the Swarm. How about a Heroic Intervention? Not a bad one. Zakama? Zakama? I don't know. Primal Calamity. He's a legendary creature, Elder Dinosaur. He might be pretty interesting too, although quite expensive. We'll see what ramp options we have. I have a feeling we have some decent ones. There's a Fellowar Stone. Speaking of, great inclusion here. Elvish Mystic. Very cool. Full art. All right, we're getting down there. Just a handful of packs left. Missed the days of draft booster boxes having 6 packs in them. Victimize. About a Vindictive Lich. Or Experiment Kraj. It has all activated abilities of each other creature with a 1/1 counter on it. And you can put a 1/1 counter on target creature. That's kind of cool. Hagam. Patriarch. Heartless Act. There's a Veil. Nice. Cool. Plenty of legendary creature options. Plenty of good hits. Let's see, can we finish with any goodies? Any other goodies in here? How about a Morophone the Boundless foil? Okay. Now that also could be our commander. Another maybe easy mode option, but a cool one nonetheless. That's neat. Very cool. Song of the Dryads. Ghoul Color Gisa. And yeah. I feel like we hit a lot of the Thrivings too, so some good inclusions in a mana base. All right, couple of packs left here. Good hits. Very fun. Hey, Vaults of the Champions. Nice. Speaking of lands, not a bad inclusion. Fairy Artisans here. Ooh. Sunquan, Lord of... Ooh. Also a good hit. Really nice. We've done really good for Mythics. Just good box overall, really. Doubling Season, Dragon, Fierce Guardianship. Really, really nice. Very happy with this. Okay, 2 to go. And we'll take a look back at our rares and our legendary creatures and our good hits. And then we will get sorting. Molimo. How about a Flawless Maneuver? Speaking of free spells, pretty cool. We'll put that down in our little hits pile. It's a good one. Non-artifact spells you control have Improvise. That's kind of an interesting one if we wanted to go with something a little bit beefier. And a Teysa. That's cool too. Lots of good options here. Another Greaves. Thriving Isle, Thriving Bluff. Oh, that glitters. All right, last pack magic here. Can we finish it off? Really good box. Very happy with this. I have a feeling we will be able to put something together here with some very good options. Last pack, blood. Wow. Wow. Last pack magic. Coming in big. Holy moly. What a box of mythics. This was sick. That is so sick. Galta, you're in the options there too. A Rogue's Passage, Tangible Virtue. We have some options here. Wow. Okay, listen. That was pretty freaking. Oh, that was pretty good. That was pretty good. Let me get these out of the way. My foils and my tokens. Let's take a quick look here. I cannot get these. Let's take a quick look at just the set of rares outside of, I would call, the big hits. I'm sure there's some other good stuff in here. Definitely some stuff we can use. Honestly, a couple of good options for some board wipes, which is nice. Cool, a couple of medallions as well, very neat. Let's take a look at the legendary creatures here. Outside of the big hits. Galta. Asa. Sun's a good hit. We'll have to really take a look at this. There could be some cool, really cool options. We'll probably stick away from doing a mono-colored commander just to give us some better options. Some of these are potentially going to be really neat. We realistically, just a quick look, could do a dinosaur theme. Very cool. Lots of good options in there, I think. Lots really good. And then, how about take a look at some hits? How about the Great Henge? Look at that. Last pack magic, baby. That is awesome. Nice Flawless Maneuver. The Boundless, certainly also a legendary creature option. How about a Doubling Season? The Dragon himself. How about not one Grand Abolisher, but two? Here's Guardianship, great hit. The Finale. I almost feel like green's kind of calling us, but we'll see. And another Grand Abolisher. Okay, that's it. That was a really good box. There are some other good commons, uncommons I saw scattered throughout. Just, I mean, our mythic hits were really good. They were really good. This was a sick box. That's cool. That's really cool. Yeah, that's neat. Okay, we're going to get to sorting, organizing, and we'll probably swap over and head into, I don't know, Moxfield or some other site to best kind of accumulate our options there, but go from here. All right, we are finally sorted. We are finally built. That took a little bit of time. It is currently the evening. Couple of things up front. First and foremost, this was a lot of fun. Second of all, definitely one of the best sets to give this a go if you want to try it. Initially, I had a much easier time than honestly I kind of anticipated doing this. Mostly because of a couple of things. This set had a lot of multicolor spells, especially legendary creatures, which makes our choice for our commander a whole lot easier. And I feel like the set's pretty well balanced for the things that you would want. A lot of really good ramp, a lot of really good removal, and some other good synergies built in across the different gauntlet of cards that we have inside of the set. So here is everything that we had. I had originally was going to include every single amount of these, but that got a little overwhelming to start. So here is every single card that we have outside of what we've built into the deck. We had a couple of really good options, and I really think with this pool, we could have went quite a few different ways, actually. There was a situation where we just had quite a few really, really good multicolor legendary creatures. Queen Marchesa, Nekusar. I mean, we could have probably even went a Teysa version here. There was just a lot of options. So as I was taking a look at potential commanders, and as I got all of the cards in here, I really wanted to look at what good synergies that we had, what would obviously also be fun to play and to try to do, and essentially landed on this. We had absolutely great mana fixing, and our ramp, our top end ramp to be able to get big stuff out was really, really good. So what I wanted to try to do was to capitalize on that, and I had two initial options. The first, I actually really considered, well, we had a few. I considered the Ur Dragon. Really, really cool. Would have been a ton of fun to build around. We had some good dragons as well, but I wasn't quite wanting to go that direction, but I think this would have been very, very feasible. The other one was Maelstrom Wanderer. The reason, obviously, being able to pick these multicolor commanders, especially 3 colors or more, makes it to be a much easier choice in terms of building. And I really thought that having a commander that we could then cascade into again would be a ton of fun. I did recognize, though, that a 8 CMC commander might not be the best choice, so we went with one less. You're gonna see here, I went with Morphone the Boundless for a couple of reasons. One, I wanted to build in a little bit more of deck restriction. I didn't really want to go 5 color good stuff here, and taking a look at the pool, I think we really could have done that transparently. White had some really, really good removal and a couple of other good synergy cards. Red had a handful of things that we very easily could have played. But instead, I think this gives me the best option to do a few things. One, capitalize on a ramp and play a lot of the really, really fun, impactful, bomb-worthy creatures and impactful spells and things that the box ended up having. We had a lot of it, and I thought that would be really, really neat. We've got some absolutely just awesome creatures here in the multicolored Carador, Maelstrom Wanderer, Yannette, obviously the Ur Dragon. We have Ghalta here as well. We've got Finale of Devastation and Tooth and Nail to go. So we've got some really, really fun stuff that we can do with a lot of mana. I thought Morphone would be an interesting one because it does give me an option. I think I would have settled on blue, black, and green as well if we would have had a commander that could have supported that color combination. Unfortunately, we did not, unless we wanted to go a 5 color. So I felt like we would go here. The other kind of cool synergy part we have with Morphone is the fact that we can bounce it, or obviously if it ends up dying when we replay it, we get the opportunity to kind of cater it to one of the bigger creatures and or spells, or really it's creatures. One of the big creatures that we have to be able to play this. So I thought it'd be kind of an interesting thing. It'd be one thing to play a 7 CMC commander, let it hit the table. If it ends up sticking around, which obviously we would hope it would, we then could follow it up with something crazy like an Ur Dragon for 4 mana, or even any of these, a Maelstrom Wanderer for 8, but we would only be paying 5, and potentially even less than that with some other stuff that we have. So here is where we settled. I also wanted to make sure as we built this is obviously not going to be the best deck ever, but I do really think we set up pretty nicely in terms of kind of eating our vegetables and just having a good, solid commander deck that can operate. I haven't been able to shuffle this up and play it yet or kind of test it, but it does feel like it meets a lot of just good criteria while also still having a lot of fun things to do. So just very quickly, we have 15 different ramp or cards that allow us to ramp. We have 4 mass removal spells, 10 single targeted removal spells. We have 4 protection spells to keep our commander or our big creatures happy and protected. We actually have 4 tutor effects, which is kind of interesting. That's not something that I would have expected to get, but we can capitalize on that pretty well. We have 10 different sources of card draw, which I think is absolutely going to be impactful for this. We want to see a lot of cards. We want to move through a whole lot. That's really good. We have 6 ways to do some recursion, mostly from the graveyard, which is actually pretty nice. And then we actually have a very small, but a sub counters theme as well. A lot of the green and a handful of our black cards here, you can utilize counters in some interesting ways to get some additional synergies, get some additional combat abilities, which is pretty cool. So it feels like overall we are running 37 lands as well, which I feel like is a pretty good amount. We actually have really good fixing overall for our colors as well. Command Tower, Opal Palace, Path, Terramorphic Expanse. We ran one of each of the different thrivings because we do want the ability, if we get into a tough spot and our commander is not out, to still be able to play some of these cards outside of some of our colorless ramp spells. We have a landscape here. We do have a Rogue's Passage, and of course we're going to play the Vault of Champions just because it's absolutely awesome. So I feel like a lot of the basics here are pretty close to what we would want them to be if we had an unlimited card pool, which is pretty nice. Now we could certainly go a little bit more or less in certain directions. We do have an opportunity for a few additional removal spells, mostly just single target removal spells. We could probably bring the ramp down just a little bit tentatively, but we'll have to see how that goes. But again, the tutor effects, some of the recursion that we have specifically for creatures is pretty neat. So if anything does end up getting killed, if our Ur-Dragon goes to the graveyard, for instance, we do have a few options that allow us to get it back, which is pretty cool. So this is how it sets up here really quick. We are a very heavy green with a pretty good selection here of blue and black, and then a handful of multicolored spells and 11 colorless. So pretty nice distribution. It's obviously good to be base green when you're trying to do something like this, I think. And some of our best spells: the Great Henge, Finale, Tooth and Nail, Chieftain, Heroic Intervention, Azusa, Galta. Like, we have some very, very impactful green creatures and spells. So it's pretty easy to want to lean into that. And I think that's, again, should make for a pretty fun and interesting deck. Let's resort this here just a little bit and go by type and talk about some of the main components. So first and foremost, again, is artifacts and our ability to ramp and fix our colors. We have a lot. We have a whole lot, and we have some of the best in the format, as you would expect from this set. So Commander Sphere, we have an Arcane Signet, Fellow Stone. From a protection standpoint, Lightning Greaves, absolutely fantastic. So certainly something that we can capitalize, especially in a deck like this, where we're trying to ramp up, we're trying to make big impactful plays. Being able to not only do that, keep the creature protected, but also get it in and allow it to attack early and often is going to be key. So Lightning Greaves was great. Sol Ring, of course, a Thought Vessel. We are doing quite a bit of card draw, so this will be pretty nice. We have a Hammer as well, which is pretty sweet, which again gives some extra ability to keep some of our big creatures protected here. A little bit of ramp and a little bit of buff here with the Sword of Animus, which is cool. And then, of course, the Great Henge. And I don't think I need to say too much more for this. Absolutely awesome. But this is also really cool because this helps to play into the counter synergies that we have. So there's a handful, again, of other cards you'll see throughout that are going to play off of this, and that was a really nice inclusion as well. In terms of enchantments, we're just running the one with the Song of the Dryads. Just good. I'm counting it as a removal spell, but just a good removal spell. Enchanted Permanent is a colorless forest land. Pretty cool. Instance, counterspell, ram through, both damage and some card draw. Resculpt, removal, Snakeskin Veil, some protection if we're able to jam one of our big creatures or our commander. Tragic Slip, not a bad removal spell at all for us to utilize. Heartless Act, same thing. Reality Shift, same thing. Evacuation, one of actually probably our better overall mass removal spells that we have the opportunity to do, especially for us, since we're going to be able to play and have probably just a little bit more ramp than maybe some other decks. This feels like a really, really good one. Fierce Guardianship, interestingly enough, we have a game changer in here, as you would expect for Fierce Guardianship. We ripped it, so we got to play it. Absolutely great. And then Heroic Intervention. I don't think too much to say for here. Pretty good stack of instants. On the sorcery side, this is going to be most of our card draw, in addition to some removal here, as well as a little bit of our tutor and our fixing. So Abundant Harvest can do both. Deep Analysis, nice. Really good way to draw some cards here for us with the ability to flash back. So kind of double dipping on that. Dread Return, pretty cool. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. We do have a few, very limited, but a few ways to actually discard things as well. So we can set up for some really early plays by discarding a big creature, getting into the graveyard, and then being able to Dread Return in certain instances. That's a nice little synergy. Drown in Sorrow was kind of a late inclusion and something I could consider swapping, but I wanted another kind of mass removal spell, especially somebody playing maybe a tokens build. This doesn't hurt us as much with the -2/2, so it feels like a decent inclusion with the Scry 1. We do have a couple sideboard cards here, Final Parting and Broken Wings. I think there's some things still to kind of tweak, maybe play around with a little bit. Feed the Swarm, removal, reach, some ramp, Read the Bones, get some card draw going. Reverse Engineer, also drawing some cards, and kind of interesting because we are running a decent amount of artifacts. This also feels pretty good improvised for just a few of the ones that might be able to tap, such as like Lightning Greaves or Hammer or Sword, and give us some capability there. If not, I feel really comfortable that we could pay the 5 mana and get our 3 cards from this. Aether Gale, I'm calling this mass removal, but 6 permanents, which is pretty cool. Non-land permanents to their hand. That can include our commander if we want to reset it for any of our bigger creatures, because we do have to change that creature type. So that is kind of interesting. Extinguish All Hope, mass removal, Victimize, an opportunity to get some recursion here for the graveyard. And then again, really kind of some tutoring action, as well as some ability to kind of ramp out some creatures here in Tooth and Nail and the Finale of Devastation. So really, really fun. Super, super cool. Some great spells here. And it's interesting when I was kind of looking at it, I did not realize, again, recursion was going to be such a good element. But there's some solid ones here. And then we'll take a quick scroll through the creatures, but Fierce Empath is another one. Lets us find a creature with mana value 6 or greater, so we have some really good options for that. Carotid here is just some ramp. Looter Ilkor is actually one of the interesting ways to not only draw a card, but also discard. So again, an interesting opening hand or a couple of draw steps in, being able to play the Looter, which should be able to attack and get in some damage. Because it has Shadow, can then pitch a big creature, and if we have a Dread Return in our hand and the mana to fix, we can make some pretty impactful plays pretty quickly. Tuskguard Captain is an interesting counter synergy. We wanted obviously to have a good curve. We'll take a look at that here in a second, but Tuskguard Captain fits our curve really nicely. Good body 2/3. It has Outlast as well, but each creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it has Trample. So if we're able to kind of ramp out something like a Henge into our commander with Tuskguard Captain out, and we have a handful of other ways to put some counters on some creatures, this is going to be pretty cool to be able to help get in some trample damage and really push some things through. Playing the Wizard here just as an opportunity to draw and discard again, so wanted to keep a couple of options for that if we were able to put it together. Good card draw spell here, an Armorcraft Judge, kind of playing again off of that 1/1 counter synergy. Beanstalk Giant, get some ramp, big creature later on. Eternal Witness, some of our recursion. Goreclaw is an interesting one because this allows us to essentially reduce the cost of creature spells with power 4 or greater. Well, we have a really heavy top end, so that could end up meaning that some, even like an Ur-Dragon, could come down in the right situation for very, very few mana, which is pretty awesome. Israeth the Awakener is also some recursion for us. Now, we have to pay some mana for this, but again, we would anticipate that we'd have the opportunity to do this, and this is on attack with a 3/3 Death Toucher, so could be pretty decent. Rishkar here, playing off of the 1/1 counters theme, also allows us to get some ramp in the right situation. Tatyova was an awesome inclusion, I think, not only because that art's pretty sick, but in addition, landfall, we're drawing some cards and we're gaining some life, which is pretty good. And we don't have a ton of synergy with landfall, just the one Terramorphic Expanse, but we do have a few options to play some additional lands each turn. So that could come in pretty nice and pretty handy. Thrinks is another one that's pretty interesting. Flash flying, spells you cast with mana value 5 or greater cost 1 less to cast and can't be countered. What's interesting is with Goreclaw, with Thrinks out, this could make for a pretty interesting setup, especially with our commander out as well, or not even, right? Even if those two are out, we're able to cast our commander for pretty cheap at that point, which is pretty cool. So I think the ability to have spells not be able to be countered is also not something to take too lightly here. Wildwood Scourge, another kind of counter synergies action, plus something later on in the game we can just dump a whole bunch of mana into and make very, very big. Yahenni, another counter synergy creature. A Suzu. Don't think I need to say much about this, but playing 2 additional lands in each of our turns, probably something we want to be able to do in this deck. Ghalta, let's get in, big stompy, punch with this with this big old Elder Dinosaur, and I don't think we'll have any issue getting some reduction in its cost either. Jolrael is one I kind of went back and forth on. Gonna include it for now. Does help out with the curve a little bit on 2. We are drawing a lot of cards, so opportunity to make kind of a little bit of a wide board with the 2/2s is not bad. We have a few, very few kind of sack synergies, specifically Victimize. But for now, it'll stay in. This would be something that I have to play with and see if we're actually enjoying. What is kind of cool, though, is we can buff everything. Pay the 6, the 4, and 2 green until end of turn. Creatures you control have base, power, and toughness XX, where X is the number of cards in your hand. We will be drawing a lot, so that potentially could be okay, but probably not as impactful. So this is something I could see cutting in the future, but for now, we'll keep it in. Caradora, Maelstrom Wanderer, Yannette, and the Ur-Dragon are here just as really, really good high top end. Runescar Demon is also kind of in that boat, but again, this is a tutor effect. Obviously a very expensive one at 7 mana, but we have so many ways to reduce this and so much ramp that realistically we could play this, and then we're finding whatever of those couple of creatures is going to be the most impactful at that point. So that is pretty cool. And a flying 6/6 is obviously nothing to be too sad about. Stonehoof Chieftain felt like an easy auto include. Not only is it an 8/8 trample indestructible, it gives something else trample and indestructible. One of the big things I was worried about with this is we have some really great creatures. Can we find ways for them to stick around, and can we find ways for them to push in some damage? We're going to need them to be able to do that, and I think Chieftain really helps us out from that perspective. Torrential Gearhulk, we have some pretty impactful instants, and that could be really good, right? Being able to play this with Flash could be kind of cool. Get one of our protection spells back, replay a Fierce Guardianship, maybe even one of our removal spells. So all in all, felt like a pretty good inclusion. Again, relatively easy, I think, for us to get the 6 mana. Vindictive Lich is just kind of fun in a multiplayer game. You can have an opponent sacrifice a creature, another opponent discard some cards, and another opponent lose 5 life. You can make everybody mad all at once. That feels like a pretty good card to include in the deck. Yannette is really interesting because this has Flying Vigilance and Menace. It is a 3/5, but whenever it attacks, we reveal the top card. I can cast it without paying its mana cost if its mana value is odd, which is kind of a unique and interesting ability. If we don't, it's a source of card draw, and that's not a bad thing. And then of course, we're just gonna play the Ur-Dragon because that's really, really cool. So that is the deck. That's how it sets up. Again, really, really nicely. Let's take a quick look here at mana value and just kind of see how we're setting up. So obviously the low end of our curve, we do have some 1 mana spells, mostly our protection, a little bit of a ramp, and some removal there in Tragic Slip. So not bad. I think Tragic Slip's kind of an interesting one to include, just because I think this is kind of a sneaky removal spell for Morbid that we could get away, and that feels pretty nice. 16 here on 2, 18 here on 3, and then we kind of ramp up from that point. 6 at 4, we have what? 6 at 5 mana, couple here at 6 and 7 mana, couple at 8, couple at 9, and then of course the one at 12. So for the most part, a pretty decent curve, mostly centered around 2 and 3, with 4, 5, and 6 having a decent chunk as well. And again, by that point, we're either reducing, we've ramped up, or we're making it impactful to be able to play our bigger spells. Obviously, hopefully turn 3, turn 4, turn 5, depending on how some of our draws set up. So that feels pretty good. That feels like a pretty decent curve to be able to do that. And again, so much of it, we're trying to get our ramp going. We're trying to get some additional lands onto the battlefield, some of our impactful artifacts as well. And I think we'll have a good chance at being able to do that. So let me resort here by color really fast. That's the deck. That is the deck. Let me know what you think. I thought this was really, honestly, I'm very happy that I picked this set to build this. I am going to look forward to actually shuffling this up, getting it sleeved up first and foremost, shuffling it up, and then going from there. We'd have to certainly look to still tweak some things. Again, our mana base probably needs a little bit of tweaks. 11 Forest, 7 Island, and Swamp feel pretty decent, again, with our other options that we have available for us. There's a few cards that I really did consider: Final Parting and Broken Wings. There's a handful here down below that we could also look at. If we wanted to go a little bit more aggressive into the ramp, we have things like Elvish Mystic and a handful of others. We could play things like the Predator if we wanted to be able to get the spawn creature tokens and be able to sacrifice those. If we wanted to go into a 5-color opportunity, there are definitely better removal spells that we could lean into. I wanted to kind of put a little bit more of a restriction on it to fit to those 3 colors, just to not, again, I really didn't want to do the 5-color good stuff. But if we wanted to go that route, I think we could actually get slightly better synergies, or at least a better suite of removal, specifically as you look at white. White's got some, things like Generous Gift. It's got a Path to Exile down here, Return to Dust, Wrath of God, Sublime here. So some really, really good sweepers. That's something that we might be able to shift back and forth into. We have some other really impactful kind of good legendary creatures like Chaos, Ghoulcaller, and a handful of others. I really do think, and I'm going to take a look at this, I really do think there is a pretty solid black and white token stack probably hiding in here, running off of Teysa. Now, I don't know if that would exactly be the best commander for us to take a look at, but we have quite a few ways to make some tokens, and we can actually kind of trigger a pretty decent amount of death triggers as well. So kind of interesting. One of the other things that I did consider is, again, because we are running the 5 colors, we do have some other really impactful bigger creatures. The Primal Calamity here was something that I did think about, but I kind of shied away from. But this is a really good, just kind of multi-staged card. 9/9 Vigilance Reach, Trample for 9, so not inexpensive, but allows you to deal some damage, destroy artifacts or enchantments, or gain life. That could be something that very likely goes in. It's probably worthwhile to be actually a sideboard card as we take a look at it. I also really thought about Nekusar, but this didn't really feel like it fits the build as much. I think drawing the cards is pretty cool. We want that opportunity to do that, but I didn't feel like we could fit that. But I also felt like there's probably a decent build around for Nekusar in this as well. This was just, I feel like, a really, really good box overall and had a lot of options. Experiment Garage was another one that I kind of thought about and works with our counter synergies. Just wasn't sure how I felt about its mana restriction. Again, I know we're going to have a lot of fixing and ability to do that, but something that I wanted to consider and didn't want this to get stuck necessarily. I also don't think that the counter synergy is super, super high on our plan. It's just something that we can find some kind of unique opportunities for and get some extra help with. So this didn't really feel like maybe a necessary part of the plan here. Of course, we've got some great cards here. Doubling Season. I mean, there's lots of ways. I really do feel like this was really cool. Probably some other good cards to consider, like Frantic Search was in there for me for a while. I just thought maybe we had some better, more leaner card draw spells that we wanted to do, and that's how it sets up. So really cool. Tons and tons of fun. Let me know what you think of the deck build here. I will say this too. This box was fantastic. As I was putting stuff in here and as I was kind of taking another quick look at what we had, we definitely made some solid profit back, I will say. Our mythics were absolutely fantastic. Just between the Finale, the Great Henge, the Ur-Dragon, those all, I mean, even combined, pretty well paid for the box. Morphone itself, too, was in there. And then you throw a Fierce Guardianship on top and a handful of others, a Suzu. I didn't even realize that the Hammer was such, commanding such a decent price as well. So very, very happy with the pulls. I obviously, if you don't know me, if this is the first video you're watching, I'm a collector. I really do enjoy the art of Magic, and I love just continuing to build out our collection. So very happy to see that, and very happy to have a fun process of doing this. And again, I thought this was a great set. If you're considering it, this is awesome, especially if you play a lot of Commander. You'll get some extra value out of the cards. Like we had, I think, 2 Lightning Greaves. We had a handful of other just really good other, artifacts and other just good spells that I'm going to run in some other decks outside of kind of the really big top end hits. Again, even just getting some lands like the Vault's like $20 or something around that, which was pretty crazy when I took a look at it. So if you want to do it, this is great. I really do recommend the draft boxes. Tons of fun. And this set up really, really nicely. So that was a ton of fun. Thank you so much for checking this out. I hope you enjoyed this little bit longer video. Again, we do openings every Wednesday. If you want to stick around and check those out, we have a whole playlist of a whole bunch of previous openings as well. We do a whole bunch of MTG Arena content, mostly on the limited side. But we might be dabbling in some other things when set releases come out. We spend a little bit of time talking about that in preparation for sealed and limited play. And so yeah, consider joining us. Hit that subscribe button for us. We're trying to get to our first big channel milestone of 1,000 subscribers. Since this went so well and I had such good amount of fun, I have another box set up to be able to do this, which I think will also be maybe just a shade more difficult, but also just going to be an awesome box. So be sure to stay tuned for that. We'll be doing that here probably relatively soon, and maybe checking out a few more. Got some other boxes that we've picked up in some Arena Directs, so maybe we'll ramp this challenge up here as we go a little bit farther. But thank you again so very much. Likes and comments are always appreciated. If you want to join our Discord, we have a Magic the Gathering channel over there, and our community is continuing to grow, so we'd love to have you. If you do any rips and want to show some cool packs and awesome pulls, we'd love to see them. If you want to talk through and chat up about maybe any limited pools that you got, help with some drafts and some cutting, or whatever the case may be, hop over there. We'd love to have you. But with that, close it out. I'm Doc, Average Gamer Guys. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one. Peace.